But let me ask you this. One of the things that I grew up thinking that nothing but white men would have sex with their daughters. And then when I started doing research, there's so many black fathers that's having sex with their daughters, and nobody talks about it.
Absolutely.
Nobody. And the reason mom can't do nothing about it is because when the daughter, if they get up enough courage to say to mom, the gatekeeper, what happened, when they see that look on the mother's face, they think they did something wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And at that point, nothing will ever, I mean, when you look at that, so people should be trained. If this happens to you and your child, somebody close, come and tell you, you know, if you have to leave the room and make like, and then you come back in and say, oh, yeah, that's old child, he did that to all of us. And then you do a process of going through the motions with her, what it did to you. Now, he cannot lie. When you got an adult man, be your husband or your brother, having sex with the daughter, he's slicker than her. He can tell you she ain't never like me, so you have to have, if me and you was homicide cops, and we went to a murder scene, and we caught the person that did it, we still got to put a case together.
That's correct. That's correct.
We present it, so it's the same, and nobody, I hadn't run across nobody that have ever known, there's some groups I send my researchers to where they meet and discuss it. And I was shocked the amount of women that molest their own daughters. Because, you know, you got certain things you don't talk about because of the church, because this is so hideous, and all of that. But how do a mother explain something like this if she done already frowned and yelled and screamed? And when you do that to a daughter, it's the same thing as when a black person teach their son. You got to be careful when you go out here with this white racist killing cops. Behave. When you tell your child to behave for a murderer, that child thinks they've done something wrong.
Absolutely. That's the fact. That's a fact.
So I just thank you for being there and putting that topic out. And I'm thinking about the men and women listening to this show that have been involved in that. You know, I'm just thinking about that whole piece. And so again, I just look forward to, and if I can get back in here from LA, I'll be there Saturday. Thank you, God bless, and peace and love.
And thank you. Always a pleasure to hear from you, Brother Dick.
Thank you.
He mentioned that it's prevalent, and do you run across a lot of that in your practice? Where they confess that what Dick Gregory said, that they confess that the boyfriend has been molesting them?
Yeah, yes. And you know what's interesting is that most patients, many of them have been in treatment with other doctors who've never asked them. And I've had patients who just look at me and then they start crying and they go, how did you know? And I said, well, if you were born in this town, there's a 90% chance that happened to you. And so, you know, and many women, it's like a catharsis for them because they have been having issues with their self-esteem and self-confidence, and many of them may have been in the drug world, you know, alcohol and substance abuse disorders and stuff. Many of them have had some bipolar issues and other issues, and so they just felt, even though they may have good jobs and that kind of thing, you know, inadequate and unacceptable, and no one ever knew. It's been the conspiracy of silence. And I'm submitting to you that this conspiracy of silence has gone forward since we were silent on the plantation for when we were molested and raped.
800-450-7876. Go to line 1. Nia's reaching out to us from Cleveland. Nia, you're on with Dr. Pat Newton.
Hello, Doctor. Hello, Carl Nelson. I am so happy to hear this topic. It needs to be discussed. I have two questions. The first one, I know that I was molested as a child. I know it started very young. I don't have specific memories. I have one memory, and the question is it possible to recover those memories?
It's possible. It may take a lot of work. A lot of times you just have images, fleeting images of what happened. You can do it. Some people have used hypnosis, but some people, once they begin to start reflecting back on their childhood and peeling back that onion skin layer in that red nucleus, it does come forward. But you have to be in a therapeutic relationship with someone that's trusting, someone that isn't going to violate your trust. So, a family friend, a member may be good, may not be good, depending on the nature of that relationship. But yes, it is possible.
Well, let me jump in here for a second. Is this something she should want to do, Dr. Newton?
If it bothers her enough, and there are issues going on in her life that she wants explanation for, then yes. If not, then perhaps not. Some people can function without having to recall those memories or even address it. Other people have blocks and roadblocks that they want to get around, and they can't do it. And they're dealing with anger issues and painful issues and self-esteem and self-confidence issues that they need to work through so they can move on and enjoy their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it bothers me, and it bothers me because the one memory that I have is fleeting, like you said, but I can't see the person. I just based on descriptions that I gave my mother and the time frame, I just think it was my father, and I would just like to know.
Well, it's interesting that most of the people are like you. They if they weren't older and they were younger, they have fleeting memories where they don't see the face, but they remember the image.
Okay.
They don't see the face. And oftentimes, if you were treated, either given special treatment or given worse treatment by that male parent or parent surrogate, oftentimes that was a cover-up for what they were doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nia, let me ask you this: Do you remember how old you were? How young you were, I should say.
I was about 3.
Yeah, that would make sense that you would only have the younger the age, particularly the under 6. You're not going to always be able to remember the image. Sometimes when we're doing therapy,
hang on a second, Dr. We got to take another quick break here. Stay with us, Nia, and also James in D.C. as well. 800-450 Grown Folks Radio 7876. Speak to our guest psychiatrist, Dr. Pat Newton. Your calls are next on 1450 WOL, where information is power. And thanks for rolling with us, and our guest, one of our power talkers, Dr. Patricia Newton. She's a psychiatrist out of Baltimore, and she's got a big event taking place Saturday. We'll tell you more of that in a moment. But we're speaking with Nia in Cleveland, and Nia suspects that she was molested. As mentioned, this is adult radio right now. When she was 3. So, Nia, my question to you, did you ever confront your father that you thought about this, or did you ever go to your mom and complain?
No, I didn't, because I'm assuming because I was too young. My memory before the age of 10 is fuzzy. It wasn't just that one person, it was others in the family as well. And how it came out was that my brother was blackmailing me, and we must have been maybe about 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me if I didn't wash the dishes or something for him, he was going to tell my mom what my cousin was doing to me. And my mom overheard it. Mm-hmm. And that's how it came out that this was happening to me. Mm-hmm. So I do remember when my dad was dying, he apologized to me. And I said, "Oh, what are you apologizing for?" And I was an adult in my early 30s. And he said, "Some things you take to your grave." So I didn't think anything of it. But when, the marriage fell apart and things went crazy, and I decided I needed some help because something was wrong, we did go back and go over some things, and that's when I started to think maybe that's what it was. But at the time, I couldn't handle the idea that it could have been him. You know,
Did you blame yourself?
I'm sorry?
Did you blame yourself?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I kept the shame and the secret, and I still don't feel worthy of goodness. You know,
those are classic symptoms where the child begins to take on the adult responsibility of feeling responsible for what had occurred, even though the child actually had no control over the event. And what I suspect is that your father came from a family of child abusers and sexual molesters, because if you had a cousin or somebody also engaged in that, there is a family history there of that behavior occurring. And so, and chances are, you know, sometimes they molest boys as well as girls. And so, but it's not unusual for a sibling or an older child, cousin or something to talk about blackmailing somebody for sexual behavior or something that they have seen or heard or knew about. So that's not uncommon. And what also isn't uncommon is difficulty in relationships with the opposite sex as an adult, and feeling of inadequacy and a lack of self-worth. That's a very common. Those are not unique to you. Those are the most common elements. What you just described are the most common elements that people as adults express.
Let me stop you there for a second, Doctor. Why would that manifest itself in that kind of behavior as an adult, though?
But because the child, as a child growing up, their nervous system is not developed. And so they take things literally. So if something bad is happening to me, it may be because I'm a bad person. So they assume that role, and then if they don't have any way of nurturing and dealing with that as a child, when they become an adult, that gets incorporated into their psychic, into their being, into their self-esteem and self-worth, because of the inability to fully comprehend as a child what is going on. And so the learned coping mechanisms are maladaptive, and they're pathological, and they may not be a problem as a child until you get into an adult interpersonal relationship where under stress you're required to come up with a different kind of coping mechanism, and it doesn't exist.
Wow. So Nia, how are you doing now?
Well, I'm moving forward and trying to just find some joy. Yeah. And that brings me to the second question was, do you ever recover? Does a person ever recover from it?
They recover, but they don't forget.
Oh, okay.
Because part of the problem is you haven't had the ability to confront your father. And I'm going to say something on the radio, and people might take offense at it, but it's worked with other patients. If you know where your father is buried, you need to go and have a talk with him.
Okay. Yep, I know where he's buried.
And you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes.
you'll comprehend exactly what I'm saying. People who may not have had that experience don't know what I'm talking about. But you will know, and you can have that conversation. And you can have that conversation repeatedly until you get resolution, in addition to, getting yourself in a good therapeutic relationship.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're
more than welcome, sister.
I hope everything works out.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, thank you. Wow,
It'll work out because she wants it to,
Okay.
So that's half the battle.
Clinical experiences on the radio, folks. The first time ever for me. 800-450-7876. Wow, that was very, very powerful, Dr. Newton. Next line 3, Danny's in D.C. Danny, you're on the
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, okay. Listen, I just wanted to ask one question. Sometimes we put our kids into homes that have they have a mental problem, and not even necessarily kids. They could be like 25, 28 years old, and then you see a person that looks. You just get that feeling and the person that he can't even stare you in the eyes. This has happened a couple of times with a friend of mine, and she says that she felt the same way. And I understand. I was talking to a lady that worked in one of your institutions, and she said it goes on a lot more than you think. And usually these people are, they're like withdrawn from the parents. And I'm just wondering, is there any way that you could probably get maybe the young man to open up?
You mean a child that has been victimized or a young person that has been victimized? They have to feel safe and secure, because I can tell you that when patients first come in the door, many of them are not going to discuss anything about their sexuality or sexual experience, and they will outright tell you, no, it didn't happen. And then as you get more trust built between the therapist or the psychiatrist and the patient, then they will begin to reveal data. It's not going to happen immediately, but I will tell you that trust your gut before you trust your head, because your gut is tied up to your autonomic nervous system, the old fight-flight mechanism, where you are looking to survive, and that's why children are closer to that system than we are, because we get programmed out of it.